Hi friends, and welcome to the Sami Cone Show. I'm once again wearing my happy bun because today I am choosing to be grateful, even in the midst of some extremely challenging times. Our community, our nation, and our entire world are experiencing a pandemic like never before. Yet I've also never seen people come together in ways like this, even though we can't come in contact with each other. But don't worry, just as our Nashville community isn't going away or giving up, neither is this show. In fact, I've reached out to some of my favorite friends to teach, encourage, and inspire us this month. Annie Downs literally authored a book on being brave, so we'll talk with her today about how to look fear in the face and triumph. Then I'm sharing some practical ideas for things you can do with your kids and teens stuck at home. And if you're tired of eating the same thing over and over again, don't worry. Chef Laura Lea will teach us how to make a delicious recipe from her new cookbook. And finally, I'm sitting down with Barbara Rainey to help us find hope in the midst of these difficult times. Since we can't go out right now, I'm glad you're here with me virtually. So let's get the show started.
From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Sami Cone Show, sponsored by Soundwaves at Gaylord Opryland.
Who couldn't use a little encouragement right now? And I couldn't think of anyone better to do that than a friend of mine that literally wrote the book on being brave. Annie Downs, welcome to the Sami Cone Show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sami. I'm so glad to be here.
I am thrilled that you're here. I mean, loud laugher that you are. I think we could use some of that, right, first of all. But it's so funny. I was prepping for this yesterday, and I found an interview we did years ago when you wrote a little book called Let's All Be Brave. And since then, you've come out with journals, 100 Days to Brave. It's really taken off. Can you just touch a little bit on why you feel like this topic of being brave just resonated with so many people literally around the world, even before the times that we're in right now?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You know, one of the things is that the word brave feels really interesting to people. The word courageous sometimes feels out of our reach, but the idea of being brave in the life you're living today feels like, yeah, I want to do that. I would like to do that. I wonder what that's like. And so I think that's part of it, is it just has this real Sami, you know me really well. I'm just a very normal person. And so the idea of someone that's very normal going like, yeah, you don't have to move across the world. You don't have to give up the life you have. What if the best thing you could do is be brave in the life that you've been given today? What would that look like? And I think that's a conversation people enjoy having.
I'm so glad you said that, because and I mean that as a compliment. You are quick to say, kind of, if I can do this, anyone can do this, right? You're living your life. This wasn't spoon-fed to you. How do you, let's just take a step back. Professionally, people are trying to get really creative right now and having to get really creative. Even just your steps to becoming an author and a speaker, you just knew that there was something there, that you knew there was something you wanted to do, but how do you take that next step?
Well, I think part of it is knowing what you want to do, but not attaching success to a certain level of something. You know, like in fact, I saw a friend yesterday. We're all on stay at home, right? We're all on shelter in place, which is why I'm at my house. And but from a distance, I saw a friend yesterday because we were celebrating an accomplishment of something he finished. It was the success is doing it. It's not how many people read it or watch it or experience it. The success is finishing something that you start. And so to me, I went into it, especially this job as an author and as a speaker, as a podcast host, all the things I do. It started that I wanted to write one book. And all I wanted to do was finish it. I wanted to prove to myself that I could write one book. And so I think that's part of how we do this, especially in these times, especially in the world we live in now. How do we determine what success is? Well, finishing is success.
Yeah, and you know, you bring up such an important point, because we are all at home. We're so glued to every screen possible right now.
Right.
And yet we have to focus inwardly, right? I think pushing pause to listen to that still, quiet voice so that we know what is it that we're called to do, what is that next step to take. how do you find yourself doing that? Even, you had a busier rhythm before, but you've always been very intentional about, Is that a good way to say it? Did you like that?
Yeah, my life is very different right now.
Very different.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're very intentional about taking a Sabbath and not, like I said, you're not, I hate to say, not religious about it, so to speak, but it's something that you felt you needed to do. Can you guide people in tapping into really just listening to that, not even just professionally, but personally, how we can get back in touch with ourselves so that we can move forward and rediscover?
Yeah, I think no matter what is going on the planet, whether you're being invited to a forced slowness that is for all of us, or whether you're choosing it on a normal week, I think there's really something about stopping production and stopping making things and stopping taking in content and paying attention to what already is in you. And paying attention to like, wait, what am I feeling? And I went on a walk yesterday, Sami, and as I walked out my door, I put my hand on my chest and I said, okay, why are you feeling this? Why are you feeling this? And it's almost like it's having a more compassionate conversation with yourself and with your God, and going like, okay, why am I feeling this? What's going on? And for me, those moments, those minutes or an hour or a day where I get to slow down and think, maybe it's when I'm cooking, or it's when I'm sitting in my chair and reading, it's when I'm praying or when I'm walking, where I can say like, okay, what does this really mean? What's really going on here? And in the best days, that's like, hey, what do I want to create that I haven't made yet? What do I think I want to make to give to the world? And other times it's, why am I sad? And why am I scared? And why do I feel like there's not a lot of hope? Well, how can I rework that conversation in my mind?
So good, Annie. I could talk to you for hours. If people want to hear more from you, they can go to AnnieFDowns.com. Annie F. Downs on Instagram. You'll get just as much joy as you've gotten from her right now. Annie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Love you, friend.
Love you too. Be safe. Sami's savings tip for today is to support local businesses. With so many people out of work and staying in, our community is certainly struggling. If you are one of those people out of work due to COVID-19, please take the time to apply for unemployment. If you're a small business, look into the help available at SBA.gov. But if you don't find the answers you're looking for, pick up the phone and call your local bank, utilities, and even credit cards to ask for grace during this unprecedented time. At the same time, if you're able, consider supporting our local businesses by ordering takeout or delivery from your favorite Nashville restaurant. Many are waiving fees, and even DoorDash is offering free delivery on Saturdays. And even if you are taking advantage of a special offer or a coupon, please remember to tip service workers and delivery people on the full amount. And if you own a business that has a message to share, especially during these unprecedented times, I'd like to help you advertise on this show. We're offering special rates for local businesses and nonprofits right now. There is no better time to reach your audience. And if you're stuck at home and wondering what you can do to get back to the basics with your family, I've compiled a list of 70 things you can do with your kids and teens. Let's take a look now. We are in the midst of unprecedented times, and that's calling us all to stay at home more. And while that can be wonderful to have more family time, it poses a unique challenge. So I've compiled a list of 70 things you can do with your teens while stuck at home. And really, these go for adults or kids of any ages. But let me break down a few for you right now, and I'll put the rest of the list on the SamiConeShow.com. So the first is to teach your kids some life skills. Now, we've stocked up at the grocery store. We're getting a lot of things like bananas, which you can cut and freeze individually, and then you can bake with them. We've made banana bread. We've made things like these 2-ingredient cookies. Well, 3 ingredients if you count the chocolate chips. But these are great things to involve the kids with and let them see what goes into meal planning, baking, cooking. My son has even found recipes on TikTok. Yes, TikTok, and has made some great meals. We are also in the midst of tax time, and so even though taxes have been deferred for most of us, have them help you categorize receipts by month. Just little things to help them know what goes into running your home and your family. We've even made these laminated lists, and we put them throughout the house. This helps them to know how to do the laundry or steps to do when cleaning the bathroom. There's so many things you can do to help your kids and your teens out. Another thing that we've done is plant seedlings. Yes, these are just egg cartons that have been out in the rain now, but we planted these last week. You can get potting soil, even just some soil from outside, and we've taken seeds and they're already sprouting after a week. You can even take seeds from foods that you're eating, like cucumbers. I even planted some lemons. I don't know if they're going to grow, but it's fun to try, and you get to literally grow your food, which is even more important, not only as we head into spring, but during this time where we're not out and shopping as much. And it's also important to take time to relax. Help your kids to create, do things like origami. Look at these beautiful creations that my son has made. You can even do coloring sheets. We've put those online as well. So these are just a few ideas that you can do to maximize your time at home, get to know each other better as a family, and continue learning and growing no matter how long that you're home together. Let's face it, you're probably getting a little tired of eating the same recipes out of your pantry. Well, have no fear. My friend and cookbook author, Chef Laura Lea, is here with a delicious recipe from her brand new cookbook, Simply Laura Lea, that's out now. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. What a big day.
I am so excited for you. I mean, your cookbook is a nonstop repeat in our house, so I'm really excited to check out these new recipes. And you've got a takeout favorite that you've done a little twist with, is that right?
That is exactly right. So I'm going to show you how I do a healthier twist on honey walnut, which is one of my favorite takeout meals.
I can't wait. Okay, so walk us through the steps.
Cool. Okay, so the first thing that I went ahead and did is I took about 2/3 cups of raw walnuts and I tossed them with a little bit of melted butter and a little bit of honey. You could use coconut oil instead for dairy-free. And then I roasted them at 350 degrees for about 12 minutes. And I'm just going to set them aside to get nice and crunchy. The next thing that I did is I made our sauce. And this is a mixture of a couple things, especially sriracha, a little bit of avocado oil-based mayo, a touch more honey, and some spices. And this is what we're going to toss the shrimp in when everything is done. So I went ahead and whisked that up. And you could use a little bit less sriracha. You can always kind of modify to your taste if you want less spice.
I love that there's a little bit of spicy and sweet to this too. My mouth is salivating, even though I can't smell it here. I'm all in. I'm with you.
Totally. Well, that's the thing. I'm not anti-sweeteners, but if you're going to use a sweetener, it's great to use something that has some health benefits to it, like honey does. Antibacterial, antimicrobial benefits. It's better than refined sugar, which is in a lot of dishes, you know. We have that going. And then the other thing this calls for, in the original recipe, I asked for water chestnuts. Now, if you can find them, that's awesome. But I know a lot of us can't find something like that right now. So hearts of are great options. So I sliced up some hearts of palm. You could use really whatever vegetable you happen to have lying around to make this nice and robust. So the next thing that I did is I filled this little baggie with some root starch. You could use cornstarch instead, salt, pepper, and a little bit of onion powder. Now, in the interest of time for what we're doing, normally I would toss this all together, and then I would be cooking our shrimp in batches over here. You guys are going to get the recipe. But for us, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add this all in and toss everything together as it's cooking in the pan.
Perfect. And what type of shrimp are you using, Laura Lea? Can you use the frozen shrimp? Do you need fresh shrimp? What?
Okay, I use frozen wild caught shrimp, which honestly you can get at a lot of grocery stores now. If you can't find wild caught, that's cool too. Don't worry about it. Just do the best you can. But right now, a lot of us only have access to frozen stuff.
Right.
And that's fine. I think we forget that frozen food is usually frozen right at the point of production. You can actually get some really, really delicious and healthy options in your freezer section right now.
Yeah, and even if you get things that are fresh or even fruits or vegetables, you can freeze them yourself so that they can stretch longer. Isn't that right?
That's true too. And it's funny, I'm glad you said that, because right now, the frozen sections are often completely empty at the grocery stores, but the produce section, so much going on. So especially things like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or Brussels sprouts or cauliflower, cabbage, all of that freezes beautifully.
That's a great tip.
Wash it off, chop it up, and go ahead and put it in your freezer for a long time.
I love that. All right, I know we're running out of time, but I want to make sure we see that finished product. So where would we go from there, my friend?
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is get our shrimp nice and pink, and then we're just going to toss everything together. We're going to add the sauce. We're going to add our crunchy walnuts, our hearts of palm, and we're going to get a nice shrimp takeout. And then what I love to do, up some white rice. So cook up some white rice with a little bit of tamari, but you could use soy sauce, a little bit of toasted sesame oil, and some kimchi. It's a really nice side to go with this.
Oh, it's so good. Well, I already love your coconut rice recipe from your first cookbook. I cannot wait to get my hands on this one. Chef Laura Lea, thank you so much for joining us today. The new cookbook is Simply Laura Lea, and I guess you can get that anywhere books are sold?
Yep, should be there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope next time you get to come into the studio so that we can all enjoy it. But make sure you get your copy of Simply Laura Lea today. Thank you, girl. In a time where hope and encouragement is needed more than ever, I called upon one of my friends to help bring exactly that today. Barbara Rainey, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Sammy. It's really a treat to be here with you. Even though we're not together, it feels like we are. And I'm grateful like you are for this technology to be able to see faces and hear from people. And we wouldn't otherwise. So it's great to be with you.
Well, it's so good to be with you. For those of you that don't know Barbara, I mean, you are a co-founder of Crew, a family life with your husband of goodness, how long have you and Dennis been married? Since
47.
47 years.
Yeah, crazy.
Mother of 6, grandmother of
24.
24.
I know. I just go, how did that happen?
I knew I was going to miss one if I didn't ask. So, I mean, I lean upon you for wisdom. I've leaned upon you for wisdom longer than you've ever known me. But now I'm grateful to be able to have this conversation with you. And, you have a book that just came out called My Heart Ever His, Prayers for Women. And the thing that before I talk about the book, I just want to say you have so much wisdom. You're so free with your experience and sharing that. But I know you don't write because of some need to feed your ego. You really write because you feel a calling. Can you tell me what was the specific calling that made you write this book now?
Well, that one's really easy to describe because when Dennis and I handed over the reins, is the way we call it, to David and Meg Robbins 2.5 years ago, we entered into a season of great unknowns, and we knew there were going to be adjustments. We knew it wasn't going to be a piece of cake, so to speak, but it was much harder than we ever expected. And it had nothing to do with David and Meg, nothing to do with family life. It just was the reality of not being a part of that world anymore. And family life had been our identity for so long, and the people we founded it, we led it, we loved those people, they loved us. It was like family. And so in a sense, it was like moving far, far away, even though it was still in town. And there was a lot more loss associated with that decision than we anticipated. And so during that 2 years, or 1.5 years or so, I began writing. Well, first of all, I was reading through the Psalms every day, 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes 5 Psalms a day, because I just was so starved for God's word in my heart, because I need it. And of course, the Psalms speak to our hearts like few other places do. And so I worked my way through the book of Psalms 3 or 4 times in that time frame. And as a result, I started writing my own feelings, my own experiences, my own cries to God on paper. And it helped me put words to what was going on inside. I did not write it for it to become a book. I wrote it for me. I wrote it for communication with God as my Father. But as they kept coming, and as I kept writing more and more of them, one day I said, I wonder. And I sent a few off to the publisher of my book, Letters to My Daughters, and he said, well, yeah, I like these. Let's do a book. And I went, oh, well, okay.
Well, and I'm so glad I was literally just going to bring up, it reminds me so much of Letters to My Daughters, just in this need to pass on, right? It's not, you're not saying this is the answer, I know everything. It's just, I've lived through this and I want to share. And it's so personal. You're so vulnerable in this. And I think, what I found as I've read through these prayers is that I'm able to relate both to you
Good.
and to God. I'm able to insert my own heart's
Good.
cry. And
Good.
so it's almost just, it's been such a beautiful conduit. I think it will impress people, and I'm not impressed, but just lay on their heart impress that if you don't have the words, if you can't find the words, this provides a guide, but it just ushers me into being able to put voice to my own words that maybe I can't right now. And if you could just touch in the time that we have left in this last minute, how do you guide people now when there's so much pain, so much uncertainty, so much unknown? How do you guide people in expressing their voice, especially to God when there's hurt?
Well, I think the best way to do that is to read the Psalms, honestly, because David says what we are feeling. He says, God, where are you? Have you abandoned me? Why aren't you hearing my prayer? Why aren't you answering me? I mean, he says flat out, I don't hear you. You're not with me. Where are you? And I think a lot of the world feels like that right now. Where is God? What is he doing? What is he up to? Why is all of this happening? And it feels a lot of times like God is silent, and we don't know what to do with that. And I think the Psalms provide a great vehicle for helping us express those emotions, because we all feel them. We're afraid to say it oftentimes, but we all feel that way about God. And then the Psalms will continue to guide us to coming to him and listening to him.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. The book is My Heart Ever His, Prayers for Women. You can find Barbara at everthynehome.com. We'll link to this at thesammiconeshow.com. Thank you for joining me, Barbara.
Thank you, Sami.
Before I go, I need you to know this too shall pass. As I reflect on the uniqueness of this time in history, I couldn't help but think that there really isn't anything new under the sun. I'm finding a lot to be grateful for right now. While my heart weeps for the thousands who are sick or have passed on, and I worry about the economic impact both for my family and our world, I'm still profoundly grateful. You see, my father was born during the Great Depression and fought in World War II. And in fact, my mother lived in England during World War II as well. Those times were very different than what we were experiencing now. For example, there's no bomb threats or food shortages like they had to experience. But what we do have is connection and community. Even though we can't physically be together with everyone we love, we can connect via the internet and phone. Most of us have multiple ways to read books, consume media, and even exercise our own creative outlets. Perhaps what I'm appreciating the most is the opportunity to press pause. Because everything feels like it's been turned upside down, expectations are low, time frames have been tossed out the window, and practices of the past have found new meaning. So while there is a lot that remains unknown, there is so much we can be grateful for today. I want to thank each of my guests who were so generous with their time and brave enough to step outside their comfort zone to join us today. But most of all, I want to thank you for being a part of this community and encouraging me each and every day. Have a great day, make sure you make it great, and do not wait to tell someone you love how you feel about them. Bye, friends.